Welcome back to another episode of the Hoopers Almanac. Adam and I have to talk about this team that we both don't really love in the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that's given both of our franchises some pain throughout the
Certainly.
years of our fandoms. That being said, the Los Angeles Lakers are ridiculously hot right now. 13-2 in the month of March, and it needs to be discussed how well a certain Slovenian player and Luka Doncic has been playing so far this year. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about last night's Pistons Thunder game, a little bit about that, but a lot about just SGA and his season that he's had, and just kind of comparing and seeing where Adam and I have him in the MVP. But not only that, in all-time rankings when it comes to that. And speaking of all-time rankings, we have an announcement to make at the end of this pod, so you won't want to miss the end of this episode for when we announce that. But before we get going, here are our friends from Green Top. Adam, we are back, and it has been a lot of March Madness in a lot of basketball homes right now. You and I know you actually watched some of the Elite Eight games because we were texting about the UConn Duke game. How much of the March Madness have you actually watched this year?
Very little. I've watched the extended highlights of all the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight games. The UConn Duke game was on at a family function I was at after my practices on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So I watched the last 9 minutes of that live, and that ending was awesome. Just an incredible finish to that game, and yeah. I'm high-fiving people, and it was cool. So yeah, that game in particular was great. I know there's some blowouts and some other games, and I do think it's cool to have a really super talented teams in the Final Four. I always prefer that, but so I will watch those Final Four games. But yeah, no, not a ton. Just had a lot of other stuff going on, including tournaments and stuff I'm coaching myself. So yeah, I apologize, but
no, you're totally fine. You are totally fine, because here's the other thing too. If you watch the Final Four, you're going to see some of the top guys for this year's draft that are in it. Two Arizona guys.
But not the very top guys. They're all out.
Yeah, I know. That's what sucks. But Arizona, here's the part that's going to be great for you, is if somehow when San Antonio somehow ends up in the top lottery, you're like, hey, I watched this guy. And so there are a lot of those kind of guys that are left in the tournament. There's the back end, 8 to 17. Some of these guys who will fall in that range that with San Antonio and OKC's ridiculous amount of picks that they have still at their disposal might work in their favor.
Real quick, what'd you think about the end of that game? I mean, obviously there's, obviously it was, obviously a couple mistakes there from Duke, but I think you were with me in the kind of not a Duke guy. Camp. So yeah. I would love North Carolina growing up. Vince Carter's who got me into North Carolina, and then I just loved them all throughout kind of middle school and high school. So I was had a not a hate for Duke. I don't really hate anything, but but yeah, except Derek Fisher. But I obviously love watching them lose, and I still do for whatever reason. Even though I don't even watch college basketball anymore, I'm still man, that feels good to watch them lose in such dramatic fashion.
It's one of those things. I think the one year I liked Duke was the one year Jason Tatum was there. And
sure, makes sense.
That was the one year I was okay, that's the one year I will just deny all fandom to anywhere else. That being said, you, I don't have a hatred for Duke. There was guys. I mean, I grew up going to private school all my life, and so it felt like as a private school kid, you were told, "Hey, like Duke," and so it was one of those things where a lot of the kids in my grade or the schools I went to and growing up were Duke guys. So if that tracks, I don't know what that kind of is hinting at.
That's part of it. That's got to be part of it, because I also we're both private school kids, so I for better or worse, yes. Yeah,
but Duke wasn't for me, and it was one of those things it was taught to me from my dad to not like Duke, and so not that we were North Carolina fans. I just had an uncle who lived in Raleigh for a little bit, so it kind of helped the love for Chapel Hill a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I will forever say that the Duke UNC rivalry is my favorite college sport rivalry. And so that, I mean, over Ohio State Michigan, over Bama Auburn, whatever you want to throw up against it, I still think Duke UNC basketball is the best
It's
college
awesome.
rivalry. And I wrote a whole like argumentative paper on it in high school, because
That's,
like I believed in that. And so um, the amount of just incredible matchups and the amount of matchups where, like this year, Duke was clearly the better team, but UNC just had these games where they're like, hey, I don't give a crap. This is our rival. We're going to show up and we're going to go crazy. And UNC's just had those over the past few years. That being said, I I was I was sad because I also don't love Dan Hurley. So it's one of those things that was like all right, choose the lesser of two evils. What do you want to choose in this game?
yeah, he's
Um,
nuts.
he's a psychopath. The headbutt to the ref is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
so bold. Like if you get a technical there and your team loses a chance to go to the Final Four because you just like wanted to what like show off to a ref, like that's just unhinged. I mean,
well,
he
there's
yeah, I mean
some
he
he made
knows he's like too big of a star, I guess, to like for them to actually team up there, but like that was so risky.
Oh, it was one of those. He gave a quote later. I can't remember if it was yesterday or today, where he was like, "I was actually going for a chest bump." I was like, "How was your head in anywhere near your chest?" I was like, "But that you shouldn't be celebrating with a ref ever. That should be like the worst connotation of it all."
Yeah, no, yeah, that's ridiculous. But the actual last play, there's so many kind of like things obviously had to happen for you can't even get a good shot off, and then it's like
Yeah.
not even that great of a shot, but he just drills it. One of the purest like swish sounds I've ever heard too. I've been
Mhm.
watching so many of those videos that have come out about like here's the reaction of this bench, here's the reaction of this bench, here's Hurley's mom dropping f bombs, like which was
Yeah.
great. Um, all those are really cool, but Hurley, they show him on the broadcast saying foul Sar, foul Sar. So he's telling them that's their worst free throw shooter. So Sar is the inbounder, which is that's good coaching from Shire, right? You put your worst guy as the inbounder, so when he throws it in, like, another guy's getting fouled, not him. But
Right.
Boozer gets it, and it's like, dude, you're the best player. They're coming to foul you and trap. Like, just take the foul and go make the free throws and win the game, and it's over. But he throws it back to Sar. So that to me is the first mistake. Is like you just heard their coach say we're fouling Sar. Don't throw
Right.
it back to the guy that they want to foul. And then he clearly is like, I'm going to get rid of this as soon as possible. So his pass is not a bad one because the younger Boozer is open, or the not as good
The
Boozer,
shorter boozer.
the shorter Boozer. He's open. But then that is the big mistake is he takes a dribble into traffic. If he just catches it and tosses it up the floor like immediately, they get a dunk and the game's over, right? But that's
Yeah.
still a high risk play. Like if you trust yourself as a free throw shooter, hold it for a second, let him foul you, go to the line, win the game. Obviously they made a few, but the dribble and then into the traffic to where he's throwing the pass where two guys are closing out on him, and they make a nice play. Obviously steal, hit a head pass, pitch back, open three, bang. I mean, it was a crazy finish. It was just like one of those all time, like everything had to go right for them, and it did. And all the videos of like reactions in Connecticut bars are like, I'm loving it. It's so fun.
It is one of those moments. Like it's a historic college moment. We had it in
Yep.
2016 when Nova hit the shot to win it over
Yep.
UNC. I mean, I still remember where I was watching that game, and it's one of those things. Like it's gonna be what were you doing in those moments? Me, it was arriving back from St. Louis after just a weekend with my family, and so my wife turns on the game. We're unpacking the car, and we're watching the last 3 minutes of this game. We're like, holy shit, how did UConn
Yeah.
come back in the first place? And then just watching it happen. So
Yeah. No.
um, absolutely ridiculous. But
The
let's
Lakers.
transition.
Yes.
Let's transition from college to the NBA. Let's talk about a team that I talked about in the intro has gone 13-2 in all of March, the Los Angeles Lakers, and it's in no small part to what Luka Doncic has done this month. But I don't want to just harp on him. I want to talk about just the Lakers as a whole because, you could try to say, well, they didn't play anyone. That's just not true because in March they played Denver. They did lose to Denver, but they beat New York. They beat Minnesota. They beat Denver later on in overtime. They beat Houston back to back. They also beat this Magic team that somehow finally won again tonight against Phoenix.
Beat
And
the Rockets
then,
twice.
yeah, they beat the
Oh
Rockets.
yeah, Houston back to back. Yeah, you said yeah. Miami. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like they have good wins. The two losses they had were to Detroit without Cade. You could, but that was also a game without, if I remember correctly, a game without LeBron or Reeves, one of those two. And then their other losses to Denver, and you can't really just take that with a grain of salt because the other team's got Nikola Jokic on the other side, and it was in Denver. So call it what you will, still home court advantage still works in regular season. Um, Adam, it's been a crazy month. Luka has dropped 60 in a game. He's dropped 50 and a few 40-point games in the month of March. What has been the biggest thing that points out to you about this Lakers team just from this past month? Because this is a team we wanted to talk about last week. We're like, wait, let's just give them the full month of March, see how they do. They do play Cleveland tonight, so not the full month, I guess, but still, what has been the biggest thing that stood out to you about this Lakers team this past month?
Yeah, and this Cleveland game, will be kind of a big swing game for them and for Cleveland. But I think everyone is in kind of the right like hierarchy now. Like I think the offense is clearly funneling, by far primarily through Luka Doncic,
Right.
and then secondary is Austin Reeves, and LeBron has just turned into this like super cutter screener, like do it all, like Swiss Army knife that he's always been capable of and always done that on these other teams he's been on that have like other really good players. But I do think it took his injury, him watching, kind of the super brain that he has, right, and being like, okay, when I come back, like we don't need ISOs at the top of the key from me very often, like
Right.
let the other guys do that. I'll play off the ball. I'll be a monster in transition. He looks fresher than like he has like the last couple of years. And then their defense just looks so much better than it was in the middle of the season, where they had that real lull where they just couldn't get stops on anyone. I mean, like terrible teams were scoring on them. And their defense looks much better. Ayton has started to buy into his role a little bit. They've just found the right hierarchy. And it's like, okay, these two guys are going to run the offense primarily. LeBron obviously is completely capable of doing that when he needs to, but play this role, the like super Aaron Gordon role, right. And it's worked. It's worked to the tune of a 13-2 record in March. I think they're going to lock in the 3 seed here pretty soon. And that's a great spot for them to be in, considering, we were like, man, is this team going to end up being a play-in team? There was a stretch there in the middle of the season where it was looking pretty ugly. And the team in general just looked kind of miserable. JJ clearly has kind of gotten through to a few of the guys, and they look great. They're running more. They just look like a much more cohesive team.
It's one of those moments for me, you're like, man, the fact that they have, and one of my favorite things I can go back to is if you have 3 guys averaging over 20 points a game, you're destined to be doing something right. I mean, it just feels like you should be like being very successful on a team. I think back to just those Warriors teams with Clay, Steph, and KD. And then I also, there was one of the Cavs years, I feel like, when it was LeBron, Kyrie, and I think there was a year that K-Love was like just under 20. But it's just one of those things. If you can have 3 guys over 20, you're probably in a good spot. But not only that, you're right. One of the things that's been incredible is just the buy-in from just the role guys. Because one of the guys you didn't even mention was Marcus Smart, who has had to be like not so much just like an anchor because he's not a big, but it's more so like the defensive like general. Like he just is like, if you see him watching during these games, he's back to that defensive player of the year version of himself where he's just like barking orders the entire time. And JJ loves that kind of energy. And that's the thing that like you can see they both kind of feed off of. Smart, unfortunately, and I think we saw this a lot in February, at the end of February, was like teams were just forcing the Lakers just to pass him the ball, to like say, hey, that's the guy you got to get the final shot to. And they've adjusted that a little bit. They've adjusted last minute lineups a little bit so that way he's not even in these games, and it helps that LeBron's back. But even still, you're right. The buy-in that they've gotten from Ayton has been truly impressive. I still love Hachimura and his ability to like be there when they need him to. Because I mean, a double-digit scorer. I wish he was a better rebounder. God, I wish he was a better rebounder, but we'll live with it. And then Ayton, like you said, like the fact that we had the moment earlier this year where Ayton said he doesn't want to be a Clint Capella, and now he's kind of becoming that. It's been what a whirlwind for him. He knows what his role is now. What I want is that 21 version of Ayton, that 2021 version of him, where he's like a stalwart on defense. I don't need him to be the scoring option. I mean, because he wasn't that even that big of a scoring option in 21. I just need him to be that like, hey, can you be a big enough body and a strong enough like bought in body in these moments where they're gonna have some pretty tough bigs in the West.
Oh, yeah.
Can you be that like big man this Lakers team needs come down the stretch of these games? And so that's the thing I'm most interested in as we continue on throughout this. But You're right. I think LeBron owning the role of being the third guy, the tertiary piece, is something impressive also on my part.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is 23rd season in the league. He's one of the at worst one of the three best players of all time. It's like
Right.
to kind of like change your mentality a bit and kind of like let me change this role a bit. This is gonna be better for the team. There are guys at that top tier that are not capable of doing that. They either
Right.
don't have the skill set to do it or don't have the unselfishness to do it. Right. So it's like that's like a real kind of change in mentality and switch from him. And I wonder if it would have happened if he wouldn't have got hurt and was able to kind of just watch and be like, okay, obviously something, and he's not dumb. I mean, he sees numbers where it's like, okay, like, when the three of us are on the floor, like it's not looking great. Like, how do we, raise that up? Like, why does it look better? Why are the numbers so much better when it's just Austin and Luka out there? I got to figure that out. So, and that has changed, right? Those numbers have switched a bit in the last, month. So, I wouldn't say I am like, they're like super scary as a playoff opponent, for, the team I root for, but, certainly going to be much more awkward than I thought a month ago.
Oh yeah.
Much more awkward playoff. I mean, we've seen Luka just be an absolute killer in the playoffs, and obviously LeBron's been doing it for 23 years. So I'm, yeah, it's an awkward one. I mean, the depth and I think the sheer athleticism the Spurs can throw at them is pretty impressive. But obviously having home court helps. But yeah, that could be a very tricky second round matchup.
Depending on the matchup, I like them a lot in a lot of the first rounds. We just totally, let me rephrase, I totally disregarded them when it came to like historical comparisons to them actually being a contender. You offered up one.
I did.
Didn't even think to cross my mind. So that being said, this just feels like, I don't know. It's one of those things when you're right, though. I don't think the Spurs or the Thunder really should be concerned about the Lakers. The Nuggets, maybe. Maybe. Just because they have so many offensive options on one end. And the Nuggets, it's like, okay, Murray and Jokic can do their thing, but can they get any. What other guys on the Nuggets roster can attack, say, Luka or Reeves or LeBron? Like, who's going to actually be able to run alongside them and challenge these guys on offense? So I'm very curious about that. But that being said, I am very mad at myself for not seeing this coming. And also, I should have known that Luka was going to push hard for the MVP come into the season, because that's when you can get your name back into the voting. And I'm very impressed with how many games actually Luka has been on the floor this year. The most of those three between him, Reeves, and LeBron. And if I'm counting correctly, the fourth most on the team behind Ayton, Laravia, and Jackson Hayes, his Slovenian national team partner. Still the craziest thing. I think this is one of those teams where it's going to be interesting to see what happens when anyone other than those three has the ball in their hands in any game.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the case for all these top teams. I guess the Thunder and Spurs are kind of the only ones that have 4 or 5 guys that you maybe trust with it. But all these other teams, they do have flaws. I mean, I don't think they're gonna have to play the Nuggets because I think the matchups are just not going to break that way. But I would still favor the Nuggets against them. I don't know if I would the Wolves anymore. I know that was a terrible matchup last year, and they kind of wiped the floor with them. But I don't know. I don't know if I would pick the Wolves this year. If they play the Rockets, I think Lakers for sure win that series. That would be shocking if the Rockets beat the Lakers. But they've got a very good chance here to get to the second round. And at that point, who knows? We'll see what happens. I mean, I do think the Lakers match up better with the Spurs than they do the Thunder.
Sure, that's fair. By the way, you're shitting on the Rockets, and they're beating the Knicks by 20 in Houston.
No, the Rockets are not bad. They have games where they look awful, but they're not terrible. There's just not enough there, and they're the type of teams like, man, like the first bit of adversity, it just kind of feels like they're gonna break.
It's one of those things where it's them and the Lakers are two very different teams. The Lakers are a high-powered offensive team who's kind of found a defense. The Rockets are a high defensive-powered defensive team with very little offense, semblance of an offense. And so we saw that worked out for the Rockets last year in the playoffs. Now, that being said, no Van Vliet this year, but they'd have Kevin Durant. So how is this really going to work? Is the question for the Rockets moving forward.
KD and LeBron in a playoff series, that's pretty cool.
Would be crazy. Let's hang out on Luka though real quick, because he, in my mind, and we'll kind of touch it a little bit more, has moved up to like the second. I got texted this week like, what would be my MVP top 3 right now? Shout out to D Rod who sent that to me, and I said I think Luka would be my second option right now behind SGA.
And then
yes, I did actually have either. Wait, who did I have? I think I had Wemby. Yeah,
I had that same as well. I would go Shea, Luka, Wemby.
And it's one of those things where you have to really consider how much he's played this year, Luka, and how like important he has been to one, keeping them afloat. But I think it's also very important to show, hey, he's leading the league in scoring. He is doing it at a pretty efficient level for how many shots he takes, which is the most shots in the NBA. Also making the most shots, also making the most, taking the most free throws. 33.7, almost 8 rebounds and just over 8 assists is nothing to be laughing at. It is just pretty impressive what he's been able to do this year.
Yeah, ridiculous season.
Also, my third option actually was Jalen, just because of what he's been doing for Boston. So okay, I apologize, but that's on me. That's my personal bias kicking in there.
That's fine.
The
Wemby for MVP thing, he hasn't played as much. He hasn't played enough. I do think the minutes gap is too big. Like that's why I would still have Shea. I agree. Defense is half the game, of course, but he is pretty clearly the best defensive player in the league by a pretty wide margin. But he's 7 or 8 games worth of that's just total. Like on average, it's probably more like 10 games worth of Shea in terms of the minutes advantage. That's a big deal to me. And Shea's offense has just been absolutely absurd. He's now shooting. Is he actually at 56% for the season? I think he's right there.
I think he's right around it. Yeah,
incredible. I mean, for a guard who takes pretty difficult shots. Again, last night, we're recording this on Tuesday evening, and last night has the crazy game against Detroit with 25 free throws, and that has become a story today, and understandably so. I watched the end of that game. It's ugly. It's not fun to watch. But a lot of them are fouls. It's just it just looks awkward. It's just kind of I guess, yeah, sure. It just doesn't feel as exciting. And I understand that. I understand kind of people's hesitancy to really want to reward that and proclaim him as a scorer on the level of a Kobe or MJ. But let's not mince words. He is on that level as a scorer. Yeah. It when you measure efficiency, volume, obviously doing it on a really good team. He's not just doing this. This isn't just empty calories. He's doing this in really difficult moments, crunch time. He's ridiculous. He's absolutely ridiculous. So I would give him the MVP again.
Would you still? But you would have Luka number 2.
I would.
Do you agree with me though that it has been kind of shocking to see, one, how much he's been able to play on with this season compared to how much he's had to carry with just when it comes to offensive load for LA. I mean, it feels like he's had to do so much for them on a lot of these nights to even keep them in games.
Well, he has. I mean, because both LeBron and Austin have missed huge chunks of the season. So,
right.
So he has had to do a lot of, and there were games where they barely squeaked out wins against pretty crappy teams, just because of his brilliance, right? So, and that's where that kind of value part comes in. It's I do think because of, not necessarily now when you look at the roster, oh, they still have Reeves and LeBron, they'd be fine with that. And it's those guys have missed a ton of games. If you just did the remove the player off the team thing, I think the Lakers would have been completely screwed in those games where Reeves and LeBron were out. If you don't have Luka, obviously. So, and the Spurs look obviously would drop off without Wemby, but they'd still be a good team. It's not it's not they'd just be a total joke, lottery team. So, I love Wemby. Obviously, he's going to win probably, could win a handful of MVPs if he stays healthy, but I don't think this is quite the year.
No, and I think what Luke has been able to do this season has been nothing short of spectacular. I think the difference between him and SGA is SGA being probably on the team with the best record in the NBA, and also just the fact that he plays a little bit better defense.
Much better. Yeah.
But I think we just can't discount what Luka has done this year, and trust me, I have been one of the guys who's just been out on Luka. I think throughout that month of February was the highest complaint count that he had to refs in any month he's had in his entire career. Uh, so it's one of those things where, you take the good and you're like, okay, I try to forget the bad or like just the ugliness that does sometimes come with this game, like the arguing. That being said, just what he's been able to do this past month of March with the Lakers has been nothing short of spectacular. And I think it's something that should be just incredibly highlighted.
Yeah, deserves his flowers for sure. I mean, both these guys are playing at a historic level that, guys like us who really care about the history of the game, it's like, and try to put it into context, which we're going to do a little more so here in a second. It's like, yeah, we should celebrate these seasons that really, like, these top like 5 or 6 players are having. I mean, the Cade injury was just such a terrible time because, he'd be right here in the mix with, some of these guys as kind of that 4th or 5th guy for MVP,
Right.
or even maybe even higher. But, that's kind of taking him out of the running. But and Jaylen Brown, your guy, I mean, he's been amazing. I love Jaylen Brown. So he's not quite the scorer that these two guys are, but that's okay. He's better defensively, and I think maybe the way to think about it, because you're like, oh, well, you're giving credit to Shea for his defense over Luka, but not Wemby. It's like, no, that's not the case. Luka and Shea are probably the 2 best offensive players in the league. Well, Jokic is the best, but they're the next 2 best offensive players in the league, right? And Shea is like an above average defender. Like he's a good for his position, like a very good defensive player. Luka's not. Wemby is like easily number 1 on the defensive side, but offensively, it's not. He's not in that rarefied air of like top 2 that these guys are. He's just not. I mean, he's
Right.
he's really not even that close yet, which is kind of scary because he's a really solid offensive player who like does a bunch of damage around the rim and can make 40% from 3. Like, it's crazy, but he's still, but he's not the level of creator for others. Now he creates space and openings in other ways than they do. And is getting closer to being like the gravity just being so dramatic that like it does create tons of openings for others, but it's not on the level of Luka or Shea yet. So those 2 guys just barely edge him out, and he doesn't play as much as them. That's a huge deal for me.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about individual award. Like, would I take Wemby to start a franchise with still? Yeah, I would, but that's not the question. It's this season's regular season MVP.
Totally agree with you. Speaking of SGA, you kind of hinted at a lot of the conversation too, but just last night with the fouls against Detroit, that's been a lot of the conversation. We both agree, and you kind of just said it too, was just that SGA is clearly just the second best, if not third best scorer or offensive player in the league right now. A few weeks ago, we did our historical comparisons to just teams, former champions, and you had compared this Thunder team to that 92 Bulls team, in part because of SGA's brilliance as an offensive scorer, creator, comparing it to Jordan in like how much he had to do for that Bulls team. And I think we're seeing that so much, again, since the All-Star break. J-Dub's been in and out of the lineup, and more recently, and he's been back the past few games. But that being said, just what SGA has had to do this season to keep this Thunder team in the number 1 seed for the entire season, from wire to wire, which would be crazy that they've done it the entirety of the year. But I think, and especially with the overtime games they had to literally start this season, there was just chances they didn't even stay in first. I think one of the greatest things that OKC has been able to do, I mean, one of the greatest parts about OKC this year is SGA has not fallen off. And like in any moments, it's not like he's felt fatigued at any moment. And in these games like last night, yes, he's going to have a lot of free throws, but man, there are very few guys in the NBA who attack the rim as much as SGA does, and is seeking contact to create those opportunities to go to the line. And I don't think that, while it is an annoying part, it's something that just is a part of the game too.
Yeah, it is, and we kind of just need to like just deal with it. It's like I think just constant complaining about it is just, I don't know. Like, I just never want to be that guy who's just like, oh, this really great player does this like one thing I don't like, so like therefore I'm just going to invalidate everything he does. I don't know. Like, just like critically think. It's just like, that's not that hard, right? Our brains are capable of more. Now, if you're like not a Thunder fan and all that stuff, you're like, oh, it's annoying. That's fine. Like, that's your opinion. Like, it annoys me. But to not acknowledge like the greatness just because of the the free throws is just lazy, quite frankly. So I can not like it, like I can not enjoy watching it at times, and I don't at times, but still say this is one of the greatest scorers the league has ever seen, because that's what he is. And the Jordan comparisons, it's like he does a lot of his damage in very similar areas of the floor that Michael Jordan did, right?
Right.
He's actually kind of a mix of the two. If you take the two kind of three-peat Jordans, the early version is a bit more at the rim. He's a little bit faster, a little bit younger, and then the
Yeah.
kind of the second three-peat is a little more. It's the post-ups, it's the fadeaways, it's the elbow stuff. And so he's kind of married those two. He's not as explosive as Michael Jordan is. So he's not like out dunking on people,
Correct.
like early Jordan was. Or even doing just as much damage kind of, through people at the rim. It's a lot of, obviously kind of, getting contact. He's shooting a lot more free throws than Michael ever did. But, this is his way of being effective. So he's shooting more of that step back three. That's starting to look like much more comfortable, which is pretty scary because if he gets away with a little chicken wing, like, what are you going to really do? Like, he's just going to create space and make a lot of these shots. So last night I got called for the full, arm extended push off on what would have been the game winner, which was, another kind of incredible shot. And that's maybe another piece we can talk about. This is like, at what point though, like, is it going to be officiated differently? Do we want it to be officiated differently? I don't really know. I do think that it has probably swung a tad too far in the offense's favor in terms of like what they're allowed to do kind of with their offhand, and especially how much they can kind of carry and take extra steps and things like that. I do think the game in general has shifted a bit too much towards the offense, but I don't know. I'm open to, different interpretations of that.
I think you're right. I understand the full extension being like the dividing line. Like, hey, if you are fully extending your arm to like get the max distance, then you're kind of effing it up. And that's when like that should be called. I don't mind the just like, hey, the nice little like hip check if the defense can do it back to you. Like that's the thing too. Like
Agree.
If I think we're already seeing that a little bit too. Like I'm watching right now. I'm watching Rockets Knicks right now. Bridges is literally putting his hand like kind of near Reed Shepherd's hip, almost the entire way up. Not full hand checking, but I feel like it should be able to go both ways if that's the case. I feel like if the offensive player is able to force the disconnect, the defender should have a way to connect, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think where I totally agree with that, and I think for the majority of players, I think that's true. It does seem like Shea, they call more of the kind of hand stuff for him than most other great players. But Jordan got a ton of calls, man. Like, go back and watch these games. We've done it. We've done the work, right? We've watched tons of these Jordan games. He got a lot of calls, right? He rode the refs, and they called the game in his favor. They really did. It's just reality.
If you don't believe us, go back and watch the '93 finals. Literally, that Suns. That's not like egregiously terrible, but you can tell. That's the thing. He
gets a favorable whistle. That's what it is. He just gets a favorable whistle.
And I'll say this: I don't think SGAs are egregious either. There's moments you're like, oh, okay, a little ticky tack. Yeah. But that's the same thing with again with the great scorers, the guys who have the ball in their hands. It's kind of the same thing. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth of it. Unfortunately, both of our teams just haven't had guys who want to attack the rim 24/7, and I wish that, unless you're Jaylen Brown, but even Jaylen Brown likes to be the most offensive fouled player in the NBA. So
Jaylen Brown is another one of those victims of like he's so strong, like his upper body is so strong that like you have to like really like he needs to kind of embellish it a bit more because it doesn't really look like he's getting fouled that much, but he gets hit a lot, and they don't give him tons of stuff. So I understand him kind of. I mean, LeBron had that problem for a long time, where it's like the guy's just so strong. It's like it doesn't really look like it's affecting his shot that much, but it is. And other players, like not as strong players, would be getting this call. So I don't blame some guys like that for embellishing that every once in a while because it's like, hey, I'm just like not going to get this if I don't embellish it. Shea does not need to do that, right? He's just not as big of a guy. So it's like when he gets hit, it looks like he's getting hit.
That's how it looked like I got hit every time in high school.
Yeah, I'm not a big guy either, right? I also got I got some calls too for sure, just by being smaller,
It's literally how I got my 4 varsity free throws. I just got pushed over by some guys from Cardinal Ritter who are just muscle gods, and I'm just sitting here as a 6 foot 120 pound kid. So no, clearly not 120 pounds anymore. Put on significant poundage since. Okay. You had a question for me, though, that you wanted to talk about playoffs in this sense.
Yes, rapid fire. Okay. The picture is becoming more and more clear. The bottom 10 teams are thankfully all eliminated. The tanking teams are done. We don't have to think about them anymore. they're gone. They're gone, right? They're just like they're gonna play some more of these games, but they're gone. So we know who our top 20 is. 10 in each conference.
Right.
What do you want? Not as a Celtics fan. I don't. That's not what I'm asking. How do you want the top 6 to play out in each conference? Just rapid fire. Obviously, we know Spurs and Thunder are gonna be 1-2. How do you want 3 through 6 playing out in the West?
In the West, okay. So I want it to be the Thunder Spurs, and then I want it to be Lakers, Nuggets, Wolves, Rockets. So as is, because I think, like you said, a KD versus LeBron matchup would be great, and then the incredible rivalry that is Denver, Minnesota. It would just be great to have. That being said, Adam, I do fear that our theory of the fact that the Timberwolves make it out of the first round, always make it to the Western Conference, could then be in jeopardy because then the Timberwolves would have to play the Thunder.
The Thunder, yeah.
Then again, though, Chris Finch will have already set the precedent of like, hey, where's our fouls? So it could go both ways there. Do you want my play-in matchups though for the 1 versus 8 seeds? I mean, the 1 and 2.
I do. Real quick, I agree with that 6. I think just like again, removing myself, I think that's like the best basketball. I do like the Lakers have now vaulted in because we said a long time ago it's like, okay, I want the top 4 in the West to end up as the 4 second round teams, but I think the Lakers have vaulted themselves into the fact where it's like, okay, there's really 5 really good Western Conference teams now. Any of those. As long as any of those 4 are in the second round, we can be happy with that. So I actually agree. I kind of want it to stay as is.
I totally agree.
This is kind of like a zoomed out basketball fan.
Yes. You're going to hate what I have, though, for my play-in matchups.
Clippers 7.
I want Clippers 7, and I want the Blazers 8.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I can't get enough of the damn Portland Trail Blazers. They have become my new Sacramento Kings. I wish upon a star the fact that we could have gotten a healthy Dame on this team. This team could have been actually pretty good. I also fear that he would have taken too many shots, and Denny could have then had a repeat of everything he's had with Jordan Poole and then Bradley Beal in Washington. So, there's a lot of that in my brain too. Yeah. That being said, I want Portland who has been a tough matchup for OKC some parts of this year too, to be that tough matchup.
Their first loss. Yeah, their first loss.
True. So I want them to be that tough matchup for OKC. Not for the fact that I think that OKC is going to lose to them. Just to see how Portland handles themselves, because I think this is next year's jump team. I think Portland is the next year jump team that we're going to see take to a new height, especially when Dame returns, to see if he has any sort of any major impact. He's going to have an impact, but major, we'll see. But I'm very curious to see how that team looks next year. But I just want to see them get their feet wet, Adam. Just want to see them get their feet wet in a 7-game series.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all. I admire what Phoenix has done all year, but I don't think they're really that serious of a playoff opponent for either of those top 2 teams. Although they've played the Spurs pretty well this year, to be fair. It feels inevitable, right? That the Spurs are going to play the Clippers in the first round. We're going to get Kawhi and San Antonio a bunch. That kind of feels inevitable. It looks like it's going to be Phoenix 7, Clippers 8. Although Portland's right there, right? I mean, Portland really could grab that 8 spot and then have to play.
What I'm saying.
Portland could easily be 7. I mean, that would not be that shocking.
I think they whip the Warriors, even if whoever falls in that 9 spot's whipping the Warriors. I don't care.
Especially if Steph doesn't play. If we don't get Steph, then they're going to kill. They're going to
correct. Yeah. I think whoever ends up losing that, if it's Suns, Clippers, or Suns, Blazers, whatever it ends up being, whoever ends up losing that first game is going to lose the second game too. Because I think whoever's coming off that Warriors game is going to be riding high. They're going to feel great about themselves. I think they're going to just carry that into the second game, that Friday play-in matchup. So, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying that's where my brain goes for this.
If we get Steph for the last 4 or 5 games and then he plays in the play-in, it would still be fun to see him play like Spurs or the Thunder in the first round. I would rather see the Warriors with Steph than Portland.
Well, that's your opinion, and I understand it. I feel like the Thunder will just throw 14 different guys.
They'll kill them. They'll kill them.
Yeah. All right. What about the East, though? What's your top 6 for the East look like?
So we know who our top 4 is going to be. At this point, it doesn't seem like any of that other group is going to grab it. If the Sixers are healthy, I would love for Philly to jump up to 6, finish at 6, Atlanta 5,
Okay.
So Atlanta, Cleveland would be your 4-5.
God.
Although Cleveland could catch the Knicks, right? They're not that far back from the Knicks.
Cleveland could catch technically Boston if they really
Boston
wanted to,
and New York.
but
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, but does Cleveland want to? So I actually think Cleveland's good at 4 because I think Cleveland can beat
Yeah.
Detroit in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's my
hey,
thing. I wonder if the Knicks are tanking this
to
game
get
because
down, yeah, yeah. Although
they
the
get
Knicks
to
have
the
gotten
fourth.
destroyed by Detroit a couple times this year, but I think Cleveland is a good the Pistons are a good matchup for Cleveland. So okay, so if Cleveland stays at 4, which I think they want to, and Atlanta goes 5, then I want Charlotte to end up at 7.
Pain.
And then, man, the last spot. So who are my choices there?
You have Toronto, Orlando, or Miami.
Toronto. Give me Toronto at 8.
There's a tweet going around like Celtics fans, who would you want to face out of like the play-in teams? And I was like, man, I am avoiding Philly like the plague right now. Like I sent this text out a month ago that if Philly plays New York in the first round, New York's losing. I don't.
Wow.
I sent. I think I sent it in our HA squad chat. I said I think if Philly plays New York in the first round, I think New York is losing, and it is solely because I believe in the fact that they have an incredible starting five, similar to New York. But it's
Mm-hmm.
after that I'm like, okay, what can Philly provide me compared to what can New York provide me? And my thing is, have fun, Cat, trying to not get foul called on you by Joel Embiid. Like Joel Embiid's gonna
Yeah.
pump fake the shit out of you, and you're gonna have. And my thought process is, Cat's gonna average 4.5 fouls that entire series. That's my biggest thing, and you're taking New York's second best player out of that series every game.
So this is
That
contingent on Embiid playing the entire series, which is pretty big if.
also fair, but my point still, I think I think and that top four ends up as is. So Detroit, Boston, New York, Cleveland. You know what? Toronto has just stayed the course, and
They have. I
they
want them to be rewarded with a playoff spot. Yeah, they've just been steady all year.
correct. The 50-point win against Orlando should just not be swept under the rug either.
Orlando, I do not want Orlando in the playoffs. That would be such a shame if Orlando made the playoffs.
If we can avoid Orlando and Miami in the playoffs, I'd be a very happy man.
Yeah. I'd
So-
rather have Miami than Orlando, but no, Charlotte has got to make it. We got to have Charlotte in there. That'd be so fun.
So I agree. So here's where I would have Detroit play Charlotte. I want that to be my 1-8.
Well, yeah, that's pretty exciting. Yeah,
Well, and I'm like, if Cade's out,
yeah.
I'm just saying that could be the fourth, fifth, 8 seed to win over 1 seed.
I believe it'd be the 5th.
Fifth, yes. So I mean, definitely up for grabs there. I don't want it, but it's gonna be Boston, Philly. If we can't, if my pain just won't go away, because Adam, I did the math on this. Since Jason Tatum has been in the league, do you know how many times Boston and Philly have played each other in the playoffs? Just quick off the top of your head.
I'm gonna guess 5.
Very close. Well, hold on. Now I gotta count. Hold on. 2018, then in the bubble, then a few years ago. It's actually only 3.
Is it really?
Hold on. Now am I doing the math wrong? I thought it was
18 definitely. 18 in the bubble definitely.
And then they played each other in 23.
I thought 22 and 23. Was it not?
No,
both those
22 they didn't play because 22 they just
Okay.
Boston. 22 Philly played in Toronto, and Boston played Brooklyn.
And 4, Philly lost in the first round of the Knicks.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, you're right. Just 3. Yeah, just 3.
But,
You're right. Yeah.
But my point was, it feels like it's been more. It feels like it's been like so many more times because of like how much. And every time Boston's won, so it's been great. I've been riding high on it. But it's one of those things where it feels like Boston and Philly just cannot stop playing each other. And it's only been 3 times since Tatum's been in the league. But I feel like it's going to happen again this year. This would be the 4th time that they play against each other.
It'd be a fun series.
It would be a fun series. It'd be one of those quotes where like I could bring back the Tatum step back against, or the pull back against George where he trips him up and hits a game tying shot when he was in LA. I could bring back just the quote that Embiid has, that how's this rivalry when Boston kicks our ass. It's just one of those things. I can just continue to dump on Philly. It makes my heart happy.
Well, and
But
obviously
I think,
the history with that matchup too. Going
oh,
way back. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. But here's my thought though. If Philly stays at 7, they play Boston. I love Atlanta, New York though. It doesn't have the Trae Young factor, which would be great to have again, just to get him back in Madison Square Garden. But I think that's such a different. It's such a two different game plans going up against each other. It's New York with their two main offensive engines, and then it's Atlanta with Jalen Johnson as like it's as its host, but it's more so like, hey, which of the 5 guys that Atlanta can throw at you in the past like 2 months that's been on fire? Like, which of these 5 different guys will throw up 20 tonight? Like last night against Boston, Nikhil Alexander-Walker just went crazy against Boston, and I was just in my pants and just so pissed at it. It's one of those things like I can't tell which guy every night for Atlanta is going to go crazy. Is it Jock Landale going to hit 4 threes on me? I mean, it feels like there can be a different guy every night for Atlanta just to go crazy.
Yeah, I want Atlanta in. I really want Atlanta to be one of the top 6. I think they've become a really fun team to watch.
I think Atlanta versus Atlanta or Toronto playing New York will be fun. I think it ends up. I think honestly, I think Atlanta ends up getting up to the 5 seed, passing Toronto, and they play Cleveland, and that'll be fun. And then Toronto ends up playing New York, and New York, it just is going to beat the crap out of them. So
I just feel like Miami's going to ruin our fun and take one of these cool teams out. I have this worry that just like one fluky game playing, Charlotte goes cold or Philly, someone gets hurt, and it's like, man, like we were going to have this really fun team in the playoffs, and now it's Miami again.
Well, how do I tell you the fact that it's probably high? It's a high probability just due to the fact that Spoelstra has been doing this for a long time, and the play-in is his game. So it's his time of the year. Real quick though, speaking of just the fact that we've had, just thinking about the playoffs, thinking about just the history of it all, and we kind of talked about just the history of Boston and Philly. Back to like this Western Conference side though, and back to 2 guys we kind of talked about a lot in this pod already with Luka and SGA. Adam, we are cultivating a list of the top 50 players of all time for a project we're working on. Should we hint at the project too while we're doing this? I mean,
I think so. I think we should.
So the past 2 summers, if you've been following the Hooper's Almanac, Adam and I have done what's called the Anatomy of a Franchise. It's been on our feed. We've done the past. Every team has gotten an episode, both an intro and a games breakdown of 3 historical games we watched. And so Adam came to me last summer already with a plan for this, like the next 2 summers. He's like, what if we just did Anatomy of a Superstar, Anatomy of a Player? And Adam and I have created and started to cultivate a list of the top 50 players of all time to start making episodes for the next 2 summers. But also we've asked some fans of these certain players to write write-ups for these guys that can go on our website, which you will notice is down. If you go to our website, you will notice it's down right now just because we're doing a lot of work on it, and we want to make sure it's looking right for whenever we get this list updated. But last week I came to Adam and I was like, listen, we have a few current guys in our top 50. I'm like, why shouldn't SGA or Luka Doncic, now we just after this past month and just realizing, man, what he's done for the game, why shouldn't these 2 guys be in our top 50? And Adam, I don't know how you want to approach this, but I kind of want to hear where I'll let you just kind of take over from here. What was the direction you wanted to head with this conversation?
Yeah, I think this is actually going to be an incredibly important discussion to have for people who are going to hopefully listen to this project.
Okay,
and I think we'll gain people that listen to this because people like listening to people talk about their favorite player, right? So
right.
I think even outside of the team ones we did, like, look, oh yeah, I'll listen to the Mavs one. I'm a Mavs fan, but it's like people feel even stronger about their favorite player usually than they do teams sometimes, especially the modern fan. That hasn't always been the case, but that is the case now. So we're going to start with a banger. We may announce that soon too. The top 50 thing, I think that even how you phrase it just now needs a distinction. You said the top 50 players of all time. It's really not that. I mean, it's the top 50 careers of all time, right? So it's like, I think when you say players or the best players, that leaves open a lot. Like Best is doing a lot of work there where you can kind of just make up the rules, right? There's been
Right.
people who've tried to do like lists where it's like, yeah, the best or most skilled players or most talented players. And that's all like very nebulous. And it's all very like, well, he can do more things with the ball, so therefore I think he's better than player X. Kyrie Irving can do more things with the ball than Shaquille O'Neal, so therefore, he's better than Shaq. And it's like, okay, I don't think anyone in the right mind would actually say that, Kyrie Irving is like better than Shaq, but he can do more with the ball, right? He's a more artful player, like he's more skilled. He's like like way more skilled than Shaq, right? So it's like, how do you even define that? Like, so we really wanted to stay away from using like better, best, right? It's like it's the top 50 careers of all time. And when we say careers, it's career value. The entire career all put together in a blender, mix it up, what do you get? Which smoothie is the best, right? Like that's the way I think about it. It's like all a player can do in any season is just throw more ingredients in the blender. That's all he can do. There's no more, there's no less, right? If he doesn't play, no ingredients go in the blender. You don't get credit for something you don't do, right? If you play 82 games and you do it at a level of like an MVP, you get more things thrown in the blender than a player who plays 55 games, also at an MVP level. Not as many things go in the blender, right? You don't play as much. That's not as much value. So I think that's the way that people need to think about it. So it's not necessarily like the best players, because there are players, like we'll talk about two right now, SGA and Luka. It's not best peaks, right? So it's like if we were doing best peaks, then the list would look very different. So we also did it in tiers. It's not a straight ranking 1 through 50. So we have different tiers.
And that was important to Adam and I, because we both we've released in the past, we've released like our top 18 and we've tiered those out, and I've had the questions of like, why is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar the first name? If you look and read, and if you understand alphabetical order, ta-da. So like just understand that. But it's one of those things of, we live in a world that is so, man, who is number one? Who's the GOAT? Yeah. And in reality, the NBA has just had so many best players of all time. Like even like they've been so era dominant. Clearly, like if you want to be real, Mikan was the first superstar of like the 50s for the short career he had. Then it was Russell. Then it was Kareem. And then it was the pair of John Magic and Bird. And then it was Jordan. And then it was Kobe, LeBron, and whatever the hodgepodge of randomness we've got now. Like for the past few years, it's been 7 different guys, it feels like. So right now, to tier guys made the most sense to get, 1, the point across, but 2, to also celebrate some of these best players that we've had. And like you said, not just the player themselves, but the career that these guys have had. And whether it's been a long-standing career, or whether it's been like Mike and a few years of just pure dominance, I think those are the moments that we should continue to celebrate. And that's what this project we're doing for the next 2 summers is hopefully going to do, is to celebrate these guys who have just given so much to the game for a long time, short time, whatever it may be. But with that, we also have to come up with a top 50. We have to like cultivate that list. And we take that very seriously. We had a 3-hour whole phone call 2 summers ago just to make the damn list.
Yeah. Well, that's even after Google Docs and texting about it. It's like that was just to kind of finalize some stuff. I mean, it is, because there's a handful of guys where you're like, okay, obviously they're in the top 50. Like we don't even need to have a debate about it, right? But then you get to that kind of middle tier, and this is how talent distribution and greatness kind of like divides, right? It's like it's more obvious at the top. The lower you go, the tiers get bigger, and the differences between player 30 and 50 is not, there's not much difference between player 30 and 50, whereas the difference between player 1 and 9 is pretty different, right? So it's like that's just the way talent is distributed in any walk of life. So like, how do you do that? So our tiers are not top 10, next 10, next 10, next 10, right? We have 4 in our top tier, our Mount Rushmore, and then it kind of goes from there. There's like 6 or 7 in the next tier, and there's maybe 8 in the next tier. And then some tiers have a little bit more players. It's more like 12, and then some have 10. So it's like, that's how we came up with our top 50. And the tiers are so important because what we mean when we say tiers is like you can make the argument that anyone in that tier, that tier can be ordered in any way, right? So it's like, here's our top 4. You can make the argument for all 4 of these players to be 1. You can make the argument for all 4 of these players to be 4. You cannot make the argument for anybody in tier 2 to be 1 through 4, right? That's kind of how we did it. And we have a tier. I think it's like 41 through 50. That one is like a little bit neater, right? Like just the last like 10. We think we can make the case for anyone in that tier to be number 41. We also think you can make the case for them to be number 50, but we don't think anybody in that tier can be number 35. So that gets harder again as you go. So we also don't want the focus to be on, oh, you have this guy 7 and this guy 9. Like, how could you? He's so much better. It's like, no, like you can literally like put the order however you want in the tier. I don't care. We put it in alphabetical order because that's like the cleanest way to do it for us. That's not the point. It's like, this is kind of generally where this player belongs. That's to me is much more interesting than a straight ranking, because you may ask me, the difference in, Oscar Robertson and Jerry West. And it's like, I may have a different answer next week because you just think about it from a different angle. And it's like, oh, well, what if your team needed this? Or what if your team needed this? What if your team needed a little more shot creation? What if your team needed a little more defense? Like, that's really like what we're talking about here. We're not talking about tennis players. We're talking about basketball players. They're playing a team game. They all have to fit within a cohesive unit for it to actually work and be effective. So, again, we took this very seriously. And so we're incredibly excited about this project. And I think the actual project of the anatomy thing is going to be really cool. But I also think the thing on the website will be cool. So what we want to talk about tonight is, are we overrating longevity and underrating kind of peak, or are we not? Are there some guys who have they done enough, if that's a way to phrase it, to be in our top 50? So you texted me. I think what happened, here's my theory, is you listened to Bill Simmons talk about Shea, and you were like, oh man, like, are we overthinking this? Because he was like, oh, he's reaching this rarefied air.
He said he was in the top 25, and I was like, okay, well, that's just ridiculous. But
yeah. I was actually honestly disappointed in that, because that's a guy who, we've both read the book of basketball probably multiple times. He's an influential dude on both of us. I don't take everything he says as gospel by any means.
Darn right I don't. Because that gospel switches and is blasphemous to other parts of him.
Yes, to his own book, right? So it's like, I'm like, no, you actually were great at like contextualizing stuff and not immediately jumping someone into this like rarefied air, letting their career play out a little bit more, right? And like leaving that space for the guys who've like really, really done it for a long time at a very high level. Shea has not done that, right? His last 4 years, you can place against just about any player ever, like genuinely. I mean, it's like this peak, these last 4 seasons, including this season. It's going to be 4 straight All-NBA first teams. Not a ton of guys have done that. He's probably going to win 2 MVPs. Very well might win 2 NBA championships. He's been top 10 in DPOY, multiple times in that stretch. It's like he's absolutely incredible. This is about as good of a 4-year run as anyone has ever had.
Correct.
But is it enough to be in our top 50? The question is, to me, what I came down to, because I landed on no, because it's like, okay, he has played at this point in time 526 games. Let's play spoiler, and let's take one player that we have in our 40 to 50 tier. That again, you can make the case to be 41 in our books. You can also make the case for him to be 50, and he probably is in the kind of back half of this if we really were ranking it. And Ray Allen is who we have in that space.
My guy, Ray.
No, I think this is important. So Ray Allen, his peak is definitely not as high as Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's.
Correct.
I think you would agree.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, definitely. Like, was never, an MVP, never really even that close, right? He finished, he's top 10 MVP voting 1 time. He only made 2 All-NBA teams. However, there is just a point where when you have stacked so many great seasons and put in so many things into that blender where it's like, man, I'm just getting more out of this, Now, if they had played the same amount of games, like for 1 season, I would take Shea in an absolute heartbeat. But that's not what our list is, Like Ray Allen played 1,300 career games. He played 18 seasons, and I would say 12 of which were like high-level all-star seasons. He actually made, let's see, I think it's 10 all-stars, 10-time all-star, right? Shea's at 4. It's like, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
I would say Shea has probably had 5 or 6 all-star seasons, but one of those seasons he only played 35 games. It's like he's just missed a lot of time. This has been a relatively slow burn for him to get to like the very top of the game, whereas some of these other all-time greats, it happens right away. We're picking nits, but that's what you do. These are the top 50 players ever. Like, you need to put together a huge resume to like solidly be in there. And for the way I think we're doing this, I think if we put him in, it would need to open the door to a lot of other players.
That is completely fair. So, and we'll say this. They're both in our top 100, if I'm not miscorrect.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely, yes.
Yeah. both him and Doncic, because Doncic is the other one. Doncic just hasn't won an MVP, hasn't won a title, but has had a ridiculously incredible start to his career with so many.
His first 4 years are better than Shea's first 4 years.
Correct, but SGA's
Last four are probably barely shaded. So I actually overall would go Luka over Shea, if you put it all together. But again, and we also, like, people are going to hear that and be like, well, he hasn't won a title. It's like, that, man, like, there's so much that goes into winning a title. Like, look at the team that Shea is playing.
At least
on.
Luka has also taken a team to a title, though.
He has.
Like, Luka
yes.
carried that team.
Yes. It's like, the title stuff is going to be. We're probably not going to rate it as highly as kind of maybe like a more, I hate the word casual, like just a fan who maybe hasn't done quite as much individual research on some of these players, because that's the easy thing to see. Like, oh, well, they won it, so therefore, he should be here. It's like there's so much circumstance that goes into winning a title, and it's a team game. We're not talking about tennis players. There's so much that has to happen for a player to win a title. It's just not that cut and dry. It's like, well, he has a title, so he deserves this. He doesn't, so he's not here. It's like, that's just so lazy. So we're not going to do that.
I think one of the other things I would just, when it comes to the discussion between SGA and Luka, because I think we both agree just Luka's impact both on the offensive end and just be able to create for others is better than SGA's. I think one of the things we also both agree on is the fact that SGA's, and we talked about it earlier, is just defensive, like, stability compared to Luka's is far better and has been for his entire career.
Yes, definitely.
Like, I think back to the bubble, like, while it wasn't him that was getting attacked by that Rockets team, it was other guys on that. It was Chris Paul who was like getting attacked because he was the lesser defender apparently on OKC that season. So it's one of those things where you're like, there's the balance that you have to find with, like, who's got the better career, better statistics, whatever, the better ability. It is a lot to take into effect, or a lot to think about. But I think one of the things you brought up is the fact that there is a longer culmination. Like, neither of these guys have played 10 years. Like, that's the thing. Like, both in their 8th season, they both came out of the same draft class in 2018. It is one of those things where, yes, Luka has the better counting stats. SGA, for his entire career, SGA just hadn't had the ball in his hands as much as Luka until 4 years ago. So it's just like, it's just the opportunity over the, like,
and we're taking that all into context. We take everything into context. The other thing we do, and I think I really admire you for this, and because I don't meet a ton of people who do this, is we don't just do the whole, like, well, that was really long time ago, so it doesn't count as much. Like,
correct.
To me, the second a game ends, it's NBA history just as much as a game from 1975. Like, those are both NBA history. Just because I watched one and I was alive for one, like, that's so, like, me centric, right? It's like, you have to open it up to the whole thing. It's like, you cannot count one thing and not the other. Like, now you can put those things into context for sure. Like, was it easier to win championships when there's only 8 teams? Of course. That's just math. Like we're not
1 in 8
stupid,
chance,
right?
1 to 30 chance.
Yeah, it's like we're not stupid. However, all a player can do is just be judged what he did in his era. Like, of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a better player than Bob Cousy. I mean, he blows him away. Alexa Avramovich, point guard for Dubai Basketball, is a way, 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 way better player than Bob Cousy. It's not even close. Right.
I want to add the 4 ways that you did for him for SGA, just real quick before the Evan Cell Army comes at you.
This is the point. That's not the point. It's like, of course, the game evolves. How bad would we be as, like, coaches and human beings if the game didn't evolve? This is, for some reason, this drives me crazy, and people can't grasp this. Like, us having Bob Cousy in our top 50, which we have him in our top 50 because all he can do is play against the players he played against. Right. It's not his fault that he's old. That's not the point. If we were doing that list, the list would be like the current NBA, right? And we also are getting to a point where Michael Jordan's prime was closer to Bill Russell's era than it is to today. So, like, when is the cutoff? So we can make a magical line where it doesn't count anymore. At some point, that's not going to include Michael Jordan. Is that really what people want? It's like, no. So you got to include it all. I just don't know why this is so hard for people to understand. And I'm going to go on this rant now because I want people to just kind of, like, take this project for what it is. It's a celebration of what we think are the 50 greatest careers in NBA history. And that's it. That's all it is. We're not trying to throw shade at people. We didn't do weird stuff with the list making just to, like, make it more interesting. It's like we actually think these are the 50 greatest careers on balance. Now we will update it every single year. So in 2 years, when we do this again, the chances are if Shea has 2 more crazy high levels, there's going to be a point where having 10 years of Shea at this level or whatever, this level, I guess, would be about 6 years at that point, is going to be more valuable than the 18 years of Ray Allen. It is. I just think right now, I would not say that that's the case.
That's completely fair, and I appreciate that about you. What about Reggie Miller? No, I'm kidding. We won't do the comparison.
Well, that was the other guy you mentioned, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like no, he just played. I know it's so boring, but it's like he just played so much more. I mean, it's just not even close. Like I'm just getting my smoothie is just way bigger. It's just like I'm just getting so much more out of that.
Is it the same flavor of smoothie in Reggie Miller?
No, and I think that's a key point because that's what I'm saying. Because someone could get on this and just be like, oh well, like. Then why isn't like Robert Parrish, number 10 because he played so long? It's like, well, there's a point though where they're having seasons towards the end of their careers that they're not valuable anymore. But that wasn't really the case with some of these other guys. Like They stayed good for a really long time. So like I'm not really measuring 18 years versus 8. I'm measuring like 12 versus 4. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. I was just gonna say more so is Reggie Miller just putting out the same fruits every year while SGA is throwing in a few raspberries with his strawberry banana smoothie.
He is. That's so yeah. And if someone wanted to come on and say, hey, I'd rather take 8 years of Shea over 18 years of Reggie Miller, I don't think that's crazy. I really don't. I just don't think that's what our list is. It's like I want to kind of give credit for doing it. We also did 0 projection. It is straight up like cutoff today. The cutoff is today. It's like the second we make the list is the cutoff. So, which is why we're going to update it every year because we want to include the accomplishments that players are doing right now. So our list does not skew really old. I don't think it does. There actually are quite a few modern players in it, and obviously some current ones. Jokic is in the top 50. Let's but Jokic is top 25. Yeah, Jokic is in the top 25. Jokic has also played longer than some of these guys. So this is year 11 for Jokic. So like that's like Larry Bird only played 12 years. Now the point is Larry Bird's 12 years are so much more valuable than Reggie Miller's 18. You know what I mean? So it's like that's why he's so much higher in the list. So there is a point where it's like I will take those 12 years. It's not just a straight years played thing. Also, we adjusted longevity for the era. Guys right now play about 20 years. So you kind of need to expect them to get to that point. Guys in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they only played about 12 to 14, right? In the 80s, they played like 15. So it's like that, my max is going to be 15 for them. My max for this guy is going to be 20 because there's just so many advantages in terms of just dieting, health, coming in the league earlier. These guys are not going to 4 years of school. There's all these different things you take into context, and we're doing all of that. And ultimately, I'm really excited for this project, but I know there's going to be the kind of like, oh, Shea's better than Bob Cousy. Okay, like obviously, obviously,
yeah.
Like that's not the question. It's like the career value. And again, all that guy can do is play in his time. He cannot time travel. So therefore, we're just judging them based on what they did in their era.
Totally agree. And this is what we're super excited about. It's just, and we've highlighted it a few times, just like, how can we celebrate these different eras and not be haters
of the moment?
Haters of just these different eras. Why can't we just celebrate it all? Like, I think, different sports have different like levels of like, I don't know, trolls. I think the NBA is just the worst of it. And I think we're just trying to be a brighter light of excitement about these different eras and a reason to do your research and go back and watch. I think one of my favorite trends right now is elite ball knowledge. If you know certain like guys from the NBA history, which I need to like just, you would know all of them. But there's this guy on TikTok who just like
I've seen a couple of those things. Yeah,
and I love it because he's like, if you don't know, if you think Matthew Dellavedova is elite ball knowledge, get the fuck out of my face because that's not elite ball knowledge. He was in the NBA and he literally went to the hospital because Curry ran him out the gym. It's just one of those scenarios.
It's like if you got in the contest with somebody who's like claims to be this like super hardcore basketball fan, and they're like, oh, name like random players from the past, and they say like, oh, Joe Johnson. You're like, dude, I like Joe Johnson, like he's 7-time All-Star. Like no, we need to be talking, Robert like Sacre.
Yes. I was just saying,
Andrew Goudlock. It's like that's who we need to be talking about if we're doing
talking about Jerry Seasting. How much you know about that guy? How much you know
Yes.
about my
Yes.
guy?
Mel
Mel
counts.
counts.
Mel
Yes.
counts.
Tell me
That's
about
beautiful.
Mel Counts.
That's
Tell me
beautiful.
about the man. Do you know Mookie Blaylock? Because I forgot about the man, but you will love the name, and you will need to go look up the fact that he was a starter. You have the jersey.
It is right over there. Mookie Blaylock, champion jersey, right there.
At a boy. But my point is this: it's like clearly. I mean, the fact that we both rattled off Mel Counts is crazy, but
That's
like,
amazing.
that's my go-to. Honestly, that's my go-to. Backup Celtics center. But I think that's like just our resume there for you. If you can't know who Mel Counts is, then I don't want to know you. And then you don't have elite ball knowledge at that point.
Yeah, and like this is the thing. It's like this is not even like a it's that's hilarious. We both said Mel counts, but like it's not even like to brag. It's like no,
No,
we took this really seriously. We've done the research. Like we watched for the anatomy project for the two teams. We watched over 100 full NBA games, and then probably another 100 of those like kind of mini like
yeah,
extended highlights of games. And it's like we're gonna do that again for these next two summers. So just so everybody's prepared for it, it's gonna be 2 years. We're doing 25 players each summer.
yeah.
And one episode per player instead of like two like we did for the franchises. We are going to pick 5 games to represent their career. We're going to watch 2 of them in full and talk about those 2 on a podcast and the player's career in general. Some of the episodes will be pretty long. Some of them might be kind of short, right? Because there's not going to be video. There's going to be tons of video for George Mikan or Bob Cousy or some of these older players. But they deserve their shine. They're in the top 50, right? They're huge building blocks on the league's history. So we're going to give them an episode, just like we're going to give Kobe Bryant an episode. Like so that like all these players kind of deserve their shine. Now, is Kobe Bryant going to be more interesting to talk about, and that's going to be a longer episode than Bob Cousy's? Absolutely it is, right? So be prepared for that. But I'm incredibly excited about this project just to dig into old games. I always love having reasons to watch these old games because my instinct is to do that sometimes. I love having reasons to do it and to research this stuff and talk about it with you and other people that we find interesting. We already have a few people lined up that are going to do some of these episodes. So we know generally what the order is, just so everybody's kind of out there.
Yeah.
We have saved a couple of the current players for season 2 just to see kind of what else they add, to their ledger of the next couple seasons.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be in order. It is not a 1 through 50. It is obviously we don't even have it in order. We have it in tiers. It's a pretty random mix that we're going to go down.
And we're still trying to figure out just the whole setup of each of these episodes, but we will make sure to just kind of give you the tier that they are in. That way you can go back and also read what we have written about them in our player descriptions and also the fan who wrote them about these guys. So super excited. And some of those fans will actually be on some of these episodes, which will be a great time. And a lot of guys you've heard on this pod in the past 5 years will be able to join us. So super.
And just so everyone has it, the list will be published at some point during the playoffs. We will start the episodes right when the season ends.
Yeah, like we did for the anatomy. It would be kind of around right after
early July. Yeah,
right after free agency, right after that 4th of July weekend when everyone's just still freaking out about where KD's going. But more so just we want to get out of that. We want to make sure Hooper's Almanac has a good end of the season, providing some context for some of the off-season stuff, but then we're also going to roll into anatomy. What are we calling it? Anatomy of a Superstar?
Anatomy of a Superstar, yep.
Love it. With that, there might be more stuff that comes with that this summer. But till then, anything else in the project before we get going, Adam?
No, very excited about it, and I want to hear people's feedback. I really do. I genuinely when we start posting stuff and we talk about these players. I want to hear people's feedback. And you can do it in a proper way. It doesn't have to be this kind of nasty. Oh, my favorite player isn't number 1. How dare you? Let's be real about this. Let's be just actual basketball fans about this and talk about it. I'm excited about it.
If your favorite player is Kobe Bryant and you're mad that he's number 1, I'm gonna have some conversations with you, and they're not gonna be healthy for anyone. That being said, thanks everyone for listening. We are stoked. We have a lot to go through this summer. It's going to be a blast, but we still have a lot that comes before that. We have an NBA playoffs, we have a finals, and my favorite part is when we can start talking about trades and just Mitchell going psychotic. I want to also just say a quick word to Spot Check because I did hear back from them. Adam, I saved this just for you on Twitter, not in real life. So who knows if they're real? Maybe it was a parody account. They said they're fixing it this summer, or they're trying to progress it so that way when expansion does happen, they're just testing little bugs here and there. No shit. That's why it's a beta. But thank you, Spot Track. Gotta
Appreciate
be
that.
up for that. Thanks everyone for listening. Go Celtics. Go Spurs. And man, Adam, I don't know who to say go third. I mean, do we just say go NBA history? No, that seems lame. But I kind of want to
Go
say
Bob Cousy. Go Mel Counts.
Go Mel Counts. Is the guy dead? I feel bad if he's dead.
Probably.
Don't shoot Adam. We might. I'm not cutting this, but I just need to know if Mel Counts is dead.
Mel Counts.
Oh no! I need a quicker answer than this.
Mel Counts is still alive.
My guy is still alive. Still kicking.
Shout out Mel Counts. 84 years old.
Jesus, guy just still kicking it. Go Mel Counts. Then we're gonna go with that. Whenever Bill Russell would get into foul trouble on the old 2K, I'd have to throw Mel Counts in that game. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a great rest of your week, y'all.